All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Laquita Gilbert. We're so excited that you are here tuning in virtually with us for our Multiple Myeloma Connect series. We are here in the heart of New Orleans. We're so excited to be here. Everyone is coming in now. The energy is good. We've been traveling from city to city all across the country to really spread awareness on multiple myeloma. And so we're excited to be here in New Orleans today to continue to do that mission. I'm so excited that you all are here today. Feel free to make comments in the chat. We want you to really feel like you're here and at it. Shortly, we're going to be just taking you around, speaking to some people here at the event. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and send you over to a video. So you'll be able to watch a series of different videos and events that we've attended. And the first one is going to be Atlanta. So hope you all enjoy.
I am so honored to have the opportunity to come with NOWINCLUDED and the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation for this amazing event.
Today's event was a great success. The attendees were so engaged. I think they really came away empowered and the message really resonated with them.
Thank you for coming today and teaching us about myeloma, cancer.
I had an amazing time at today's Multiple Myeloma event.
I enjoyed the event.
We had a great time and it was very informative.
Got some vital information that I'm going to be able to pass on.
Great information.
And if they have anything that I can participate in, I will do that.
I think events like this are wonderful because they help to expose the truth about things that we really don't always ask or we might be uncomfortable to ask.
I loved the panel. I loved the discussion. I loved the question and answering. It gives everybody a chance to learn.
Being able to be here today and share my story made me feel like I have purpose. Well, sometimes you want to question why me, but I no longer have that question because I feel like, why not me? And now I'm able to share my story. I'm able to spread awareness, and more than anything, I'm able to inspire people.
I can't explain how much support I felt from everybody in the room, even though I didn't know them. They have become part of my community, part of my team now.
So we have some folks to thank that were very important to making this happen. Shout out to the Clark Atlanta students for helping us throughout the day.
Thank you to our partners, the MMRF, for trusting us to create this experience for you and with you.
With the MMRF, we really do rely on this kind of information getting out to the community. Like I said, that's possible through resources that we offer in partnership with organizations like ACLINATE. Thank you, the NOWINCLUDED community and ACLINATE, for partnering with us on this just wonderful occasion.
I want to thank the Lou Walker Center because you must always have something in the community and someone that will agree to help reach out and engage the community. And thank you all so much for coming out, and all of those with multiple myeloma and suffering from. It's a journey. Keep your hope.
Thank you, community members, coming out. I just encourage everyone to go home and have a conversation with your family members, with your loved ones. And I hope that all of you understand that by you being engaged and involved today, that you are helping us make change within industry.
Here with the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, doing a community event to bring more awareness about multiple myeloma, especially in the Black community, to help educate community members about what multiple myeloma is, talk about signs and symptoms, talk about clinical research.
I believe it's important for events like this to take place because information needs to be shared. We need to advocate and empower ourselves within our own spaces and among our family and friends and community.
We need to educate people in the community about some of the symptoms that can happen. That way you can address them with your provider. For instance, if you're having back pain that's not resolving, if you have abnormal blood tests.
This information isn't well known. This information isn't communicated to our community like it should be. We didn't know what multiple myeloma was.
Right, and we probably never would have known had we not come here.
Yeah.
Having worked in the healthcare arena for over 35 years, I'm often the one that people come to for a plethora of questions pertaining to healthcare. I know a lot, but I don't know everything, so you have to continually educate yourself so you can also help educate others.
The panel I was on today focused on how faith and community build upon your journey of multiple myeloma. We tried to not sugarcoat what we were going through with the disease, but to give people something they could hold on to.
I thought it was a wonderful event today. The patient stories and the topics they touched on, I could tell it really touched the audience. The audience was so receptive, and this is information we need to get out, especially to the African American community.
If Now Included comes to your city, you gotta go. They do an excellent job in presenting information. It is very easy to understand, and the choice of speakers are just absolutely great.
It's important for Now Included to be here in Detroit because multiple myeloma among African American is on the rise. I think it's very critical that those of us who have been on this journey are advocates for those who are coming behind us.
We are back. We hope you enjoyed that video. I have the infamous Dr. Wright here with us, and I want to just ask him a question. Dr. Wright, what brings you out today?
Hey, listen, I'm just glad to be here. We want to keep making noise about these different cancers that are affecting us in the African American community. And so I'm so glad that you guys have come down to New Orleans, my hometown, to talk about this blood cancer. You know, we basically deal with prostate and breast cancer in my space, but now I'm learning about this new cancer so that I can continue to make some noise to bring some more awareness about early detection and screening about these diseases that's taking our communities out, especially our African American males.
Absolutely. And Dr. Wright shared with me, you know, he had recently found out someone that passed away in his family a long time ago actually was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Would you care to share?
Absolutely. I was on a phone call a couple of weeks ago with one of my cousins and found out that her sister died from this disease back in 95, 96, somewhere up in there. And she said that the speculation is that because the apartment complex that she lived in had been built on top of a garbage dump, that it could have been from the chemicals that were still left behind that my cousin was breathing in her body. And when doing some research on this disease, I found out that chemicals have a great big impact on how this disease affects us. So yeah, I mean, look, the closer it gets, the louder we get, right? And so again, I'm just so excited about what you guys are doing here to continue to bring awareness in my hometown because the numbers here are increasingly larger.
Absolutely. And something that you said that really spoke out with me is that the closer we get, the louder we get. And that's exactly why we're here today, is to really just spread awareness, to get loud and to talk about, you know, this disease and spread awareness. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back in just a minute.
So today we are in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Little Rock AME Zion Church, where we spoke to the Charlotte community about multiple myeloma and hopefully educated the community about the importance of multiple myeloma.
I can't even thank God enough for this happening, and MMRF and Accolade getting together and saying, yes, Charlotte is a city that we need to go to.
This was a great opportunity for us to bring awareness about multiple myeloma. A lot of African American people are so not informed of the disease. So bringing this information to Charlotte is very, very important. Bringing this awareness was awesome.
It's always great to hear from the doctors and other patients. I always learn from other people. You get the perspective of different patients who've had different journeys, and you know, you're not alone.
One lady was talking today. Her story sounds just like my story. I kept saying, see, I'm not the only one. I think events like this give you ammunition to be able to talk to people about multiple myeloma.
There is still hope. Your life still can be saved. When you know better, you do better. And sometimes you have to advocate on your own behalf.
We need to ask questions. We need to be our own advocate. We may be a little intimidated with asking questions, but after this event, I'm on fire, and I don't think that we should be intimidated.
When you see the doctor, you want to make sure that you are getting more than just a blood pressure test.
If you have more information to take to your primary care providers about what you may think is going on with you,
it may push them to work a little harder at finding a cure for whatever you're going through.
I was the caregiver of Grace Perkins. It is important to get this information out to people so that they are aware and can look for these things if needed and can advocate for themselves.
Coming out today to this event, I learned a lot about multiple myeloma that I didn't know about before. I realized that there's a lot of people that is not aware of this particular cancer, but I think that awareness is the most important thing.
They get to hear from the survivors, and they get to hear from the caregivers, and they get to know that there is life after cancer, and you just got to go through, the ups and the downs, but on the other side, that's victory. You'll fight and you'll win.
So today is all about community and multiple myeloma. I want to send a big shout out to some of our participants and also the MMRF, the Multiple Myeloma Research Fund, and also Acclimate's Now Included platform. So they're a big part of what we have going on today. We'll kick things off with opening remarks from Ms. Jen Rogers. She's a representative of MMRF. And also Laquita Gilbert, the community engagement lead with Acclimate's Now Included platform.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. I am so pleased to be here. Thank you for saying hi. Appreciate that. I am happy to be back in my home state. All right. I see somebody wearing Saints outfits too. That makes me happy. No, I'm seriously pleased to be here and represent the MMRF, and thank you all for being here today to learn a little bit more about multiple myeloma. The MMRF is the largest organization in the world dedicated to finding a cure for each and every patient with multiple myeloma. Because as you're going to learn today, multiple myeloma is different in every patient. And with our partner Acclimate, we were able to go out to communities like this and provide a little bit more education. So hopefully you can go home and help educate your loved ones a little bit. And with that ripple effect, we can get the world out there and spread a little bit more education out there about multiple myeloma. And my journey with multiple myeloma started because my father was a patient and he had multiple myeloma, and it's such a hard disease to diagnose. It took us a while to figure out what was going on. So spreading this information out to you maybe can help you realize what's going on. Are you telling me? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. He's telling me to talk closer to the microphone. Can you hear me now? Okay. Could you hear me before at all? Okay, you hear what I say. All right, just making sure. So my father had multiple myeloma, and so I've been through this journey, and it means so much to me that I want to make sure everyone knows about this disease and how it can disproportionately affect different communities, such as the African American community that is twice as likely to get this disease than other communities. So it's really important for me to be here today. I'm so happy to see that you are here today. And with our partner Acclimate and Now Included community, I hope you sit back, enjoy our amazing panelists, and learn something. Please ask questions if you have questions, and take this information back to your loved ones. So thank you for being here today, and hope you ask some questions and enjoy our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. She said everything, but my name is Laquita Gilbert. I am the community engagement lead at Acclimate's Now Included platform, where we really focus on empowering communities to take actions, right? We want them to be able to have access to resources, to be able to take charge of your health. We've traveled from city to city all over the United States, putting on these types of events on multiple myeloma, spreading awareness, making sure that our communities really know what it is, multiple myeloma is. And we're excited, now to be here in the heart of Louisiana and New Orleans. So excited. I mean, it's so beautiful here. We can't wait for the event to begin, the panelists. We hope that you feel inspired, empowered, and educated, before you leave here. So thank you all for coming here today. I know that you all received a survey as well. So just a reminder to complete those pre-surveys. It really helps us to understand, what kind of information you are, retaining. We'll do another one afterwards as well. So thank you. We hope you all enjoy.
Give it up for Ms. Rogers and also Ms. Gilbert. So we're going to start our first panel after we do this giveaway. And we got some gift cards. We got an Amazon card.
Let me get the name.
Okay. And this is a $25 Amazon card that they drew from our registrations. So we'll give this out in just a second. We'll start our first session today, and it's entitled The Beat of the Journey, a New Orleans Guide to Navigating Multiple Myeloma. Our moderator for this panel will be Ms. Jennifer Rogers, who you just met. And then we also have a list of professionals and thrivers and caregivers as well that'll participate in the conversation. We'll bring Ms. Rogers up first. I'll tell you a little bit about Jen Rogers. She's one of the reps for Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, and she graduated from Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center with a master's in cellular biology and anatomy, and began working in research at LSU. Like she said earlier, her father was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2009, which led her on her career to begin to find out exactly what's going on. And she also started working at one of the major myeloma centers in the country at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock. Her father was being treated there, so it was a great place to be. Her father ended up passing in 2013. Jen joined the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation and has now been with them for 11 years, working with MMRF with their goals of finding a cure for every patient. Y'all give it up for Ms. Jen Rogers. Our panelists for this first panel will start with Dr. Andrew Delavicio. I thought you were going to get up and do a little two-step for a second. I thought you were itching to do it. Okay, well, you faked me out a little bit. You pump fake. But he is a New Orleans native, and he directs the myeloma, lymphoma, and cellular therapy program at Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. He earned his MD from LSU Health Services Center in Shreveport and completed his residency and fellowship at Rush University Medical Center. Dr. Delavicio is a member of the multiple professional societies and specializes in plasma cell disorders and lymphomas. Y'all give it up for Dr. Delavicio. I thought she was going to do it. I thought she was getting up and do it, man. Up next, we have Mr. Alan Stevenson. He's a financial advisor, entrepreneur, and patient advocate that was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2016. He founded the Multiple Myeloma Warrior Community on Facebook. It's a vibrant support network that connects patients, caregivers, and advocates worldwide, and is the chief patient advisor for Polygon Health. He's also the creator of the Multiple Myeloma Patient Connect, and he uses his experience to educate, empower, and advocate for patients. Y'all give it up for Mr. Alan Stevenson. Our next panelist is a thriver. We have Miss Michelle James. Give it up for one time. Her journey with multiple myeloma began unexpectedly at a dance rehearsal 5 years ago. It culminated in a life-changing diagnosis on April 14th, 2020. And after a stem cell transplant, she had 4 years of remission, but relapsed on the 4th anniversary of her diagnosis. Now 56, she is deep in remission with new treatment under Dr. Delavicio, and she continues to live, dance, and thrive. Give it up for Miss Michelle James. And she certainly can dance. So you remember the baby dolls, New Orleans baby dolls as well?
Yes, I'm with the baby dolls.
Okay, she got it. She's representing. All right. And our final panelist is a caregiver. And I think it's really important because caregivers don't always get their proper due. It's such a tough task quite often. I have a sister that has a mental illness, so sometimes I have to step up because my parents are older, but caregivers put in so much work to make things right. So I'm very proud to announce that we have a caregiver on our panel as well. Ms. Brittany James is the daughter of resilient multiple myeloma thriver, Michelle James, who you just met. She became her primary caregiver after the diagnosis, and learning firsthand, she found out about the challenges that families face and the importance of advocacy, compassion, and perseverance. Inspired by her mother's courage and firsthand experience, Brittany now advocates for patients and caregivers, raising awareness and championing resources to help others thrive. Please give it up for Miss Brittany James. Right, we got another baby doll representative, all right. It's all yours, Jen.
Well, thank you all for being here today. It's wonderful to see you all. My first question actually is for you, Dr. Delavicio. Patient walks in, never heard of multiple myeloma before. How do you explain it, and how do you tell them about the disease and what their journey is going to be like?
So I think that's a great question. You know, in the kind of world of cancer, this is actually a fairly rare cancer. When we think about things like colon, breast, lung, those are far more common. And so most people, when they walk into my office and we make this diagnosis, have never heard of it. So generally, I will start by explaining that it is a cancer of the blood and the bone marrow. And in particular, there's a type of cell in our immune system called a plasma cell that we all have. And I'm sure everyone's heard of antibodies, obviously with COVID, and that kind of became a common word in everyone's household. But these cells, these plasma cells, which reside in our bone marrow, are responsible for making antibodies. And what happens in myeloma is that they essentially become cancerous. And one of the things that they do is produce these broken antibodies that get kind of just deposited in the blood. They can cause fractures, kidney problems, high calcium levels, which can make people feel really ill. So basically, I explain it as a cancer of the blood and the bone marrow. One of the things that I always tell my patients when we first start is that this is not a death sentence. That we have seen over a 500% increase in survival rates over the last 20 years with the therapies that we have. If people go on the internet and they Google myeloma, you'll see these kind of dismal survival rates, and it says it's incurable, and that is not true. I'm a firm believer that this is a curable disease. It has been, and we're only getting better at that. And so I try to impart a sense of hope to these patients that they can do very well for a long time, and very well maybe potentially cured with the drugs that we have now and have coming down the pike right now. So those are kind of the big points I try to hit home at our first appointment, that the message is not one of doom and gloom, but hope.
Thank you. Now, Michelle, your story is uniquely New Orleans, being with you start to experience symptoms with practicing for dance for Mardi Gras. Love that. Can you share a little bit about your story and pushing through with your sisters and continuing practice, and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Well, can y'all hear me? Okay. Well, this will be my 9th year with the dolls, but it was in my 4th year we were practicing, and I don't know, I did a slide with my leg, and then all of a sudden this intense pain happened. And I don't know, I wasn't really worried about it at first because I thought I pulled a muscle. So I ended up going to the emergency room where they told me that I would have to see an oncologist. And I was really shocked. Life has not been the same since, but I remain positive. I stay in prayer. I have a great support system and a wonderful doctor. I'm still with the dogs, of course, and right now I'm at a halt practicing, but I'm looking forward to possibly next year getting back, putting my boots on the ground to dance again. I just try to stay positive, try to, keep in mind that this situation cannot take the best of me. I'm really working hard on conquering it.
Brittany, I want to reiterate what Mr. Wayne said about the caregiver having as difficult of journey maybe sometimes even more difficult journey than the patient. I understand your mom was diagnosed around COVID-19 time. You want to tell us a little bit about what that was like for you and what your journey has been like as a caregiver?
Yeah, so I've witnessed the situation that happened with my mom. I heard when she went to rehearsal, she had a pain and she had to go to the doctor. And I don't know, I just didn't process it at that moment when she announced her diagnosis to me. It was so much going on with COVID. I was going through, of course, a job transition, had to move back home because, everything shut down. And I think God just positioned me to be there at that time. I think that was the best thing for the family, for me to be present. Um, it was a little difficult a couple of months moving forward because I wind up getting an opportunity to teach, and I didn't want to pass up on that opportunity to become an educator. And while I became an educator, we all know teachers have to endure a lot, but it's different becoming a teacher during a pandemic. And so there was a lot of different things that I had to go through that, you know, many couldn't have withstand. I just believe that God just gave me the strength during that time to get through it. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be sitting here and sharing my journey with everyone. But yeah, it was pretty rough. It was a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts. I mean, I would go to work and hearing about a COVID-19, you know, positive case coming back, and I have to go back home to my mom, and the school at the time couldn't make an exception. There was no level of accommodation for someone like me in my shoes. So on a daily basis, while traveling back and forth an hour, you know, in between home and going to the school, I had to fight through the anxiety of potentially catching COVID-19 and bringing it to my mom. And I think that was probably the most difficult part of it, going through that. So, yeah.
Thank you for all you do. Is this working? Okay, I couldn't hear. Alan, I want y'all to know Alan has driven from the Monroe Calhoun area to be here today. We appreciate that. And Alan is leader of the Myeloma Warrior Support Group, which is over 11,000 members now. So he's made a really big impact in the myeloma community, and we're really grateful for you to be here today. But you chose to describe yourself as a victor rather than a victim in this journey. And can you explain, I guess, some of the misconceptions you had when you got diagnosed and going into treatment? How I know you're very active, being, you know, Northeast Louisiana hunter, camping, fishing. Can you explain some of the misconceptions you had about going into treatment and what your life was going to be like and how it is now, actually?
I think that was one of my biggest concerns whenever I first got diagnosed, because I was in really, really bad shape. I mean, my L5 vertebrae collapsed. I had fractures in every vertebra. I had clusters of fractures like spider webs through my ribs and sternum. I had lesions all over my bones, you know, all over my body. And I will say that my medical team was absolutely amazing. And my concern was, what's my quality of life going to be? You know, I figured out a long time ago, I'm not getting out of life alive, right? And I know where I stand with God. My life insurance premiums are paid. So I was sitting there saying, well, am I really going to do this or not? And they reassured me that I would have a high quality of life. And I thought a lot about what my legacy was going to be. And when I mean that, what I mean by that is, what am I leaving behind? Whether it be now or 30 years from now. And how do I want people to remember me? You know, do they want me to, do I want them to remember a guy that was, you know, angry or felt sorry for himself? Or do I want them to remember the guy that laughed when all my hair and my beard fell out and only half of my mustache fell out? You know, that actually happened to me twice. And the first time I walked around the house with half a mustache for 3 days because I thought it was funny. My wife finally said it was getting weird, so I had to shave it off. But, you know, the way I look at it is, every single person is going to go through some type of hardship during their lifetime. It may be marriage, it may be financial, it may be health. You know, you may have somebody close to you that passes away. You may be the victim of a violent crime. At the end of the day, each of us have to make that decision. Are we going to be a victim of our circumstances, or will we be a victor over our circumstances? And I just chose to be a victor. And I said, this is not going to beat me. And You know, and since then, I saw early on that I prayed for many years that God would use me to be a blessing to other people. I didn't know it was going to take cancer to do it, but whatever. And I saw early on that I could have a positive impact on other people by sharing my story. And I encourage everyone, no matter what you're going through, whether it's multiple myeloma or something else, be willing to share your story because you can change somebody's life.
Thank you for that. Okay, so Dr. Delavisio, back to you. I think as we've seen, your support team is a big part of how your journey goes. So for somebody in this region, what do you think are the key components of establishing a good support team? And how do you feel this area might be uniquely positioned to give the resources for somebody going through multiple myeloma?
Yeah, well, I think your support comes from two places. One is going to be your loved ones, and then your other big team is going to be your medical team. And so I always say be nice to your siblings because you might need them later. But I do think sharing your story with your family, your friends, is important because I think you'll find a lot of people come surprise you and how they can love you and support you. And so I would say that there's no shame in this. There's no reason that you can't talk to patient or your family members about this. I think when you're assembling a medical team, one thing I would probably advocate for is one thing is seeing a physician that specializes in myeloma. As you know, the knowledge that we have about cancer has expanded exponentially over the last years and decades. To keep up with all the different types of cancers can be challenging. And so, seeing a specialist, and fortunately there are a number of excellent ones at many medical centers in Louisiana that does this day in and day out is important. We know from studies that if you do that, your outcomes will be better. Now, that's not to say you can't have a local oncologist that can help execute that plan with the support of kind of a specialist so you can get care close to home. But that's one thing I would absolutely advocate for. And then one other thing I generally always tell my patients is, just tread lightly with the internet. That there's a lot of good information on the internet, and there's also a lot of really bad information on the internet. And so learning to kind of navigate that is one way you can kind of support yourself and kind of relying on reputable websites and things like that. But I would say gathering your family and friends around you to support you through this, assembling a good medical team, and then kind of support yourself and advocate for yourself. Don't be scared to do that.
Thank you. I will say from my journey with my father going through this, reaching out to other family members allowed, I'm an only child too, by the way, allowed me to get closer to some family members that I hadn't really known before. And I know it's important to look for a silver lining in everything that happens, but that was one that came out of it, was that I got to know some family members that I hadn't previously known. So that was a blessing in the midst of a difficult time. But Alan, you are a financial advisor, so you have, I guess, a unique perspective going into this, how someone might be able to protect their resources or search for ways to protect their assets. What are some of the first steps, I guess, you would suggest for somebody that's been diagnosed in ways to do this, to protect their assets or look for resources in ways that, on this journey?
So, yeah, I've been a financial advisor for 26 years. I tell people all the time I'm a lot smarter than I look. The first thing is don't assume anything. Just don't assume anything. Don't assume you won't qualify for help. Don't assume you can't afford something like going to a specialist. People assuming things creates more problems than anything else. There's a tremendous amount of resources out there to help you. My first few years, being self-employed, and of course I have real high deductibles on my insurance, and I would say my first 2 years I probably spent $20,000 I didn't have to spend. I just didn't know, even doing what I do for a living. And the counselors at the cancer centers are one of the most underutilized resources that we have. If you go to a large cancer center, they're going to have social workers that specialize in dealing with this. And of course, I'm thinking social worker, oh, they want to analyze me and make sure I'm not in depression, all that. And I don't have time for all that, you know. And anyway, I probably should have not assumed those things. And, you know, after I've learned more, they are that first line to help you find the resources that you need. You know, a lot of times patients have to travel for their care, and that social worker at that cancer center, they're going to know about the housing options in that area. And some of them are very low cost or maybe even no cost for some people. Also, there are grants by different nonprofits and different organizations. There are national organizations and even some state specific. I've put a lot of research into this. There are some states that have grants available for people in their state. There's also copay assistance programs available for the pharma companies. And, you know, once again, a lot of times people just assume, oh, well, I won't qualify. Well, yeah, you probably will. And you know, in talking to some of the pharma companies, I mean, I've found, you know, where nonprofits have been able to work with pharma companies and actually arrange for transportation. And I mean, there's just a lot of help out there. But if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to, you know, you're not going to get the answer you want. I mean, you know, so it's just important not to assume anything. And then the other thing is, and I saw this happen recently. Somebody made the comment that they pulled money out of their retirement plan, their 401k or their IRA or whatever, to pay for hospital bills. That was a very bad idea because there are a lot of protections on your retirement plan. And creditors can't touch that in most states. So, you know, I'm not trying to give legal advice, but I'm just saying to educate yourself before you go out there and just assume things and make some really, really bad mistakes. Also, some of your health insurance policies will pay for some of the travel and lodging expenses when you have to travel. I didn't know that, even doing what I've been doing all these years. You know, it's just something I hadn't had to deal with. So just mainly don't assume, surround yourself with people that know more than you do and ask them questions.
I would echo that too. What Alan said here is, I would say social workers are complete angels and amazing. But I do think, you know, to the extent of advocating for yourself and getting them involved, one of the other things that we'll often find is that patients may have problems with their employers or employee-based insurance. Because obviously when you get a diagnosis like this, there's going to be missed work time, things like that. There are protections in place. There are, you know, rules in a lot of states like Louisiana. So the social workers actually have a good handle on all that. So that's another good resource you want to tap into to ensure, you know, that your employer is acting correctly, things like that. So.
And I'd like to add something, and this actually goes back to what you were talking about a minute ago, that support group, right? I highly, highly recommend getting involved with some local support groups of other patients and caregivers. Nobody understands like somebody that's walked in your shoes. And not only will you learn about some of these financial resources from that community, but also you get that support. Like I said, I mean, you know, your family and your friends are there to love you and support you, but nobody understands like somebody's been in your shoes, right? So joining those local support groups, and then also, you know, joining the like Facebook groups. And, you know, I will say that I've heard the best one out there is the Multiple Myeloma Warrior Community, but, you know, so.
No bias, of course, right?
Yeah.
I would like to add something. Being your own advocate is very, very important. Just like you were saying, Alan, you have to, you know, ask questions, even if you don't feel like that question is important. Every question is important. Every question. Speaking up if there's anything wrong, because in my case, if there's anything going on, any pain that I feel, I'm going to question it. I'm going to send an email to my doctor. I'm going to actually speak with my primary care doctor, who's really an amazing doctor as well. But being your own advocate is very important, and also stay off of Google.com. Google doesn't have a degree, doesn't have any experiences in the medical field, and I had to learn that the hard way.
I say all the time, Dr. Google needs some malpractice insurance.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
That's a good point about being your own advocate. And as it's also very important you find the right physician that you work with that you can trust and that you have good communication with, that is there to answer your questions and spend time with you. So it's wonderful to see the relationship that you and Dr. Tardovicio has.
Amazing doctor, yeah. And I have to put in also my primary care doctor. He was very persistent. We didn't know what was going on, and he didn't tell me at the time, but he did suspect multiple myeloma. I mean, he had me going through tests from A to Z, and it was a difficult time. I was like, what is myeloma? Is it something to do with the skin? And no, it's not. It's a blood cancer that weakens the bones. And he really actually educated me, and which led me to where I am today. And I'm just so happy about that. I feel pretty blessed to have that doctor. Yeah, as well as Dr. Delvicio.
I think that's a good point too. Is having a good primary care physician. You want somebody that can quarterback your care, that you trust. But we know that a lot of the times multiple myeloma arises out of what we call precursor conditions, where we may find this protein in the blood and we'll follow it. But there's clear evidence that if you know you have this, and a cancer doctor's following it, that they can intervene before problems start. And I can't tell you how many referrals we get from a good, astute primary care physician that had a suspicion or picked this up and referred it to us so we can monitor the patients for the development of myeloma. So again, kind of hit the point home about having a good primary care doctor.
Brittany, I want to come back to you as a caretaker. There's a saying that you can't give from an empty well. And I know, you've got your own career, but, he was talking about taking time out from work and doing things, but how do you take care of yourself so you can take care of your mom?
First and foremost, I mean, with due respect, everybody has their own personal relationship or spiritual belief, but I'm a person of faith. I put God first. God gives me the strength to endure everything and balance everything that I'm going through. I have a family of my own, and I'm just very fortunate to have two parents that love to be grandparents. So when I need to take a break or take some time off, my mom is always open arms. She loves my son, and it's just beautiful to see them together. So I'm very fortunate to have that. My fiance and his family are supportive as well, and so was he. So I'm just very fortunate in that area. I have great friends. Actually just came from vacation in Orlando, went to Universal, got a chance to be a big kid recently. So I'm just very fortunate. I just find, it's not always easy. I have my moments where I'm like, I don't know about this. And then she comes pop up, hey, let me take them for a second. It's just, I'm very fortunate in that area. But yeah, I definitely just try to find a balance. And the biggest thing that I do is I advocate for myself. I give what I put out. So if I'm advocating for my mom and my family, my friends, I have to do that for me. So I make sure that I don't accept any level of unnecessary in my life. That's something that I've really grown. Any unnecessary stress, if a job or a person or anything, I eliminate that. And I'm always on guard for my mom as well, because something that I've been very adamant about and something that I've preached to her as well is to stay away from stress. So I'm literally like the pit bull waiting in front of the door, and she's in the house like, no, you're not coming in, stress, anxiety, all that. I'm always a positive, voice when she needs that. And I just believe in just creating balance in life and making sure that, you know, you do things that make you happy. So just doing things to make me happy. Yeah.
That's lovely. Your gratitude shows. You're just lit up from within. You have a lovely smile too, I just have to say.
She's talking about avoiding stress, and I'm sitting here thinking I've got like 5 businesses, you know.
I think you need a Brittany at home for you.
My
Yeah.
whole life is stress.
So, Dr. Delviso, you're involved with clinical trials. How do you approach a patient that you think might be a good candidate for a clinical trial and explain the process to them?
Sure. So I can't reiterate enough the importance of clinical trials. That is how we make advancements in treating diseases like myeloma, and that's why we see the survival has nearly gone up by 5 times in the last few decades. So clinical trials are incredibly important. I think that's really a shared decision you want to make with a patient about a clinical trial. Look, there are some bad clinical trials out there, and there's some really good clinical trials out there. So I think having a physician that understands the field, where it's going, is important. And I think that's where it gets to the point of having a myeloma specialist. But when I generally talk to a patient about a trial, I will say, look, particularly if it's a therapeutic trial, that we have this new drug, this new agent that we're either using alone or in combination with what we are using already to see if we can improve outcomes. And I explain to the patients, the benefits and the risks, and we kind of make a decision together. But I would really say that A, having a specialist that runs trials, and B, just having a frank, open, honest discussion about the pros and the cons of the trial and what it's looking at.
As somebody that used to have to write these, I also want to say that the consent forms on these things, especially for an oncology trial, can be 30 pages long and outline every single thing that's going to happen in the trial and every single potential risk, as well as the benefits of the trial. So you're really informed, and encouraged sometimes to take it home and discuss it with your family and friends before signing up to participate in the trial. And these things are very heavily regulated as well, too.
I'd like to add something to that. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. What I see in the multiple myeloma warrior community about clinical trials, I think a lot of times we look at that as everything else has failed. This is my last hurrah. And that's not what it is most of the time. And a lot of time, I mean, from what I've seen, and I mean, you know way more about this than I do, obviously, but from what I've seen, a lot of times it's drugs that have been proven with a proven track record. They know what to expect, and now they're, instead of it being a second or third line treatment, now we're looking at it as a first line treatment, as in comparison to like a stem cell transplant or something.
Yeah, that's generally the course of new drugs as they get approved. They tend to get used first in patients that are kind of running out of options, have been through multiple treatments, and when that shows effectiveness, we'll start to move them up earlier and earlier. And so again, the kind of concept of being experimented on is not really true. A lot of these drugs are widely used already. We understand how they work. We understand their safety profile, things like that. And we're just trying to move them up into what we call earlier lines of therapy where they may be even more effective. And so again, I think it gets back to having that discussion with your oncologist about the trial, what it means, what it looks like. Because again, there are times I tell my patients, I don't think this is a good trial for you. And so that's a conversation I'm very willing to have with patients.
I think there's also a misconception that sometimes a patient who signs up for a clinical trial could get a placebo instead of a drug, and that's just not going to happen in an oncology trial. They're going to compare it to the standard of care at the very least. So if there is an oncology trial or clinical trial that's you're asked to participate in, you will at least be getting the standard of care for the treatment, and not a placebo where you're not getting any medication.
The thing I would add about clinical trials is that when you do enroll in a clinical trial, often you get even some more support. We have research nurses who are amazing that kind of give a little extra TLC to our patients, and so it can actually benefit you more in that you may be getting a groundbreaking drug or an effective drug as you kind of get a little bit extra, like I said, TLC in the clinic and things like that when you're on a trial.
At this time, I would really like to extend to the audience if you have any questions you would like to ask of our panelists at this time.
I think this is more for Dr. Delviso than anybody, but are care teams specifically chosen, I guess, by you or by the attending physician? Because, and I ask that because we were treated, my wife and I were treated so well, and I think it's one of those situations where at a time in your life when you hear cancer, you get terrified and you need some reassurance. And the entire care team was very, very meticulous about, making us feel comfortable and those kinds of things. So I just was wondering if it's a specific person that you're looking for, or if they're assigned, or do you get to hand pick?
Okay, yeah. And so when, so it's like in my clinic where I predominantly see only my myeloma patients, generally we're working with the same nurses, the same, advanced practice providers, the same medical assistants, research teams. So these are healthcare team members that are there for a reason. One, that they're passionate about taking care of patients, and that they're passionate about this kind of disease state. And so, to an extent, when we hire these people, when we kind of form our teams, I think it's like a coach picking out the best players that you think can really help you take the best care of these patients. So,
I know you were saying to surround yourself with people who know things and don't assume. So when you first get this diagnosis, a lot of times you can be really overwhelmed and you really don't know what questions to ask. You were saying ask the questions, but sometimes you don't know what questions to ask. And when you're first taking it all in, they tell you have social workers and all, but you're not hearing that. All you hear is cancer. So do you have the teams that continue to reach out to the patients to try to put them in touch with the social workers and community health workers and all, so they do get to ask the questions that they don't even know they need to ask?
yes, that's a great question. So we do. We have what are called nurse navigators. So anyone that comes into our cancer center, and most cancer centers have this with a cancer diagnosis, they kind of help hold your hand through the social workers, the infusion room, all this stuff. So you have basically kind of a handler to walk you through this and answer questions. And obviously, this is kind of in supportive role of the physician and the care team. But yes, most modern cancer centers have that resource in place.
I'll also add that the MMRF has nurse navigators also. And that is, I think, another underutilized resource. I don't know these nurses personally, but I know their reputations because I know people in the community, and they have a tremendous amount of experience. And once again, it's just one of those resources that's underutilized. And going back to what you said, you got to know something before you can ask a question. Somebody could ask me about designing nuclear submarines and say, "Do you have any questions?" Well, no, I don't. I don't know anything about that, right? And that's really where we are with multiple myeloma when we first get diagnosed. Is we don't even know enough to ask a question, and that's why it's so important to get involved with patient communities. You will learn a lot from other people that have been down this path, and whether it's a local support group or whether it's, an online community or whatever, reaching out to other people that have this disease is one of the most important things that you can do. But you also got to make sure that it's somebody that keeps a positive attitude, because you don't want somebody to bring you down. You have to protect yourself from that.
And yes, it's I should say for me, it was very difficult to finding someone. I do know through the insurance that my husband has, there was some advocates that gave me calls and he talked and they encouraged me. But it just wasn't, for me, it wasn't like hands-on and personal for some reason. And so what I did was I just actually put myself out there through social media and start sharing and posting my experiences and everything that I'm going through. And once I start doing that, lo and behold, there were a lot of women actually in my age group and my race that actually found me. And we've actually bonded and we have communicated all the time. When we have questions, we help one another, and just the fact that having multiple myeloma, we understand each other. And to
Did
yeah,
you feel
I
alone?
did at first. Yeah, I did. I was very afraid, the unknowing. I was concerned about not being here and, and not seeing my grandkids. And I was at the time 50 and I still had a lot of life. I had a lot to offer. And like I said, I wanted to go in and find, I don't know, when I went through the social media, they actually came to me, and giving them encouragement actually helped me. And we just, I learned a lot from them. I just have to mention their names. Is a lady named Julie. She lives in Houston. LaGreta, who lives in New York. And then there's Darcel. Darcel was actually introduced to me through a family member. And we just talk and ask questions and we learn so much. And I know through Julie, she introduced me to, I think it's called LLC, if I'm not mistaken. It's a place, it's a program that actually provides grants for people who that actually like cover their insurance, like any medications, prescriptions, or what have you. They actually assist you with that. And I was grateful for her. She had so much knowledge and where to go, and I was grateful to finding her. And yeah.
When I was introduced before I came up on stage, one of the things that was mentioned that I'm the chief patient advisor for Polygon Health, and I don't know if this is the right place to really get into depth in that, but I'll just say that the way that that happened was because it came because of that feeling of being alone, and I didn't want other people to feel that. And with that, I had the idea of creating a map where people could pin where they live and maybe find other people to fellowship with, or maybe even start local support groups. And on that map, we have, support groups all over the country and a lot of other things. But that's why that whole idea came about for that technology platform, and actually how I ended up in that role, because I knew what we were not getting as patients that we needed.
Kind of pointing to that resource again is, as a physician, I've done transplants with hundreds of patients and CAR T, and diagnosed many patients and walk the walk with them. But I can talk till I'm blue in the face. I've never had a bone marrow biopsy, never had a transplant, I've never had chemo, and so while I can kind of give the secondhand description of patients when I talk and support them, I can't give that, and so I think that is so important for patients to talk to people who are thriving and doing well and have had the experience themselves.
I'll just add something to that. We've actually had people in our group, and it doesn't happen often, but they'll say, well, my doctor says that that side effect doesn't happen from that medication. And I'm like, yeah, you need to tell your doctor to call me, because when you talk to me, you're talking to thousands of patients, because I see what's happening out there, and your doctor doesn't know enough to know what they don't know at this point. And you don't see that very often, because what you normally see is very compassionate people like this. And if you don't have that, that's what you need.
So we know a lot, but we don't know everything. So.
For me, it was very scary as being a caregiver on what to do, what advice to give, how do I help my mom. It's like, I don't know how to explain. It's like you feel like you're falling, but you're not actually falling. It's just, it was a really unique experience that I had with being my mom's caregiver, and her being a part of the community and not being silent about what she was going through. First, I want to say I'm so proud of you for doing that and giving women who look like you a voice, and encouraging them not to be fearful of what they're going through. But the level of relief that I got from knowing that my mom was in the midst of a community where there was a lot of support and other people who were going through what she was going through, it really warmed me a bit, and it also gave me a lot of encouragement and motivation to be more active and not be afraid to ask those questions on something that I'm not currently going through, but I'm going through. So, yeah, I just want to say I'm really proud, and thank you to you all for all the work that you're doing um, and helping, everyone who's going through this. So.
I want to say something just real quick, and then we'll get back to the audience questions. The MMRF not only has the patient navigators, which are there until late in the evening to answer all your questions, and I've personally seen them spend hours on the phone with people until they're comfortable, and they will follow up with you. But we also have a program called the Myeloma Mentors, who are actually myeloma patients, and there's caregiver mentors as well. That if you ever feel like you need to talk to somebody that's in your shoes going through that, they are there to help. And yes, they're available on our website, and I'm happy to talk to you later. But let's get back to the audience, please, if there's any other questions.
So a question that I did have was, when someone comes into your office with multiple myeloma, the first step do you offer like chemo? Because my mom got diagnosed with multiple myeloma in August of 2025, and I feel like we've been stuck on pain management. We haven't really started any chemo or anything. So when someone comes into your office, I guess my question is, your first line of defense, is it offering chemo or radiation?
We actually generally don't use chemotherapy in myeloma nowadays. There are scenarios where we do, but we've gotten really good at finding medicines that help target and kill the cells without causing kind of all that traditional collateral damage you think of with chemo, hair loss, nausea, vomiting. And so really we have treatments nowadays, usually combinations of treatments that are highly effective. Over 90% of people respond to them and can induce deep remissions. And so there's different scenarios for individual patients based on maybe their other health problems or their type of myeloma that they have. But in general, it's combinations of what we call novel or targeted treatments, not chemo, that we use to get people into remission nowadays. And your mom should do fine.
I think that, those of us that aren't doctors, we have a tendency to just call all the treatments chemo, right? And technically some of them aren't. And some of the drugs are very hard on us, some of them aren't. But the thing is that there's been so much experience that they know what to do about most of the side effects. I'll tell you that for me, the fear of the unknown and what I imagined in my mind that it would be wasn't nearly as bad as what it actually was. Not to say that it wasn't bad. I mean, I did 2 stem cell transplants in about 90 days. So, yeah, that was pretty tough, but looking back, it honestly wasn't quite as bad as I figured it'd be. So anyway.
In kind of a frame of reference, I have lots of patients that are working full time while they're getting their treatment. So, or doing, playing golf or fishing or doing things like that. So it's not like they're sick in a bed, all day, every day. Not to say that these treatments can't have side effects, but
I have a quick question in reference to, are there any common symptoms, Dr. Delavisio, that you can talk about that are often misdiagnosed or overlooked in general that you might be able to kind of give us some information on?
So yeah, the diagnosis of myeloma, obviously we make from blood tests, biopsies, things like that, but the typical presenting symptoms often are things that are not necessarily specific. Back pain, rib pain, just kind of feeling like no energy, things like that. So there's some very non-specific kind of symptoms we see. Kind of red flag things that we think about would be really severe acute onset pain, particularly things like back pain, rib pain. But again, lots of things like muscle pulls, slip discs can cause those things. And so really there's no kind of, one symptom where you say this is myeloma. And so generally what I will tell patients is, we're all going to get backaches. We're all going to feel crummy from time to time from the flu or things like that. What you really want to be looking out for are symptoms are not getting better or are severe. And those are things that you really, if you're experiencing those, calling your primary care physician to say, hey, something's going on.
I'd like to get a little bit into, I've been diagnosed since 2019, and I'm at the VA, and I hadn't heard anybody say anything about veterans or anything like that, and I'd like to make a statement about that. with the VA, when I got diagnosed, believe it or not, I couldn't walk. I was stuck in a wheelchair. I had compression fractures from the top of my vertebrae all the way to the bottom, with 3 broken vertebrae, and was in a wheelchair for a month and a half. I was under the care, and still under the care of Dr. Hanasafa. And what happened for me was kind of like a really kind of strange thing. I kept having back pain, and I kept saying, I've got back pain, I got back pain, and nobody, they say, oh, go to physical therapy and, work out and everything. And the physical therapy was not the one, and trust me. But it took about 6 months for them to finally figure out, you've got multiple myeloma. And it was at the VA that did the diagnosis. And for those of you who are looking for help with if you're a veteran, the VA is a great place to go to. But like they were saying, you have to be your own advocate. You really have to say for yourself, I'm going to go through what I have to go through. And, it took them a while for them to get me through the stem cell transplant. That was crazy. It was awful. I was going through it during COVID, so I had no kind of support with that at that time, because they closed down all the hospitals. It was really a difficult time for me. And what I'd like to say, what happened for me was, I'm a singer. Okay, you might have seen me around town. I'm not that well known as some, but I'm more known than others. But as a vocalist, I couldn't sing, I couldn't work. And I went to all the resources that I could go through. I got diagnosed at the age of 61. That was 6 years ago. So that says something, okay? But one thing that was a help to me, I couldn't work, and I couldn't walk. I was stuck. The doctors had put me on disability. So I got Social Security and SSDI. And I was on SSDI. I was on SSDI until I grandfathered out of it into Social Security, because now I'm on Social Security, just regular Social Security. But the SSDI was a great help for me, because it actually got me through what I needed to go through. And if you find yourself like short for money, there's a lot of resources around. If you're a veteran, there's palliative care. After you get through like the stem cells and everything, my hair fell out and everything. I went through that too, but the VA is a good resource if you are a veteran, but you've got to be your own advocate and not give up on what you're trying to do with yourself.
Thank you. And I'll tell you, from being in the multiple myeloma warrior community, we're seeing a lot of people, obviously, that are veterans that are, trying to get help from the VA. And that's one of the things that I think that we can do, and the veteran community can do, is kind of come together and educate other veterans about what's out there for them. Thank you so much for adding that.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here today as part of this panel. Would you please give our panel a round of applause? And thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Andrew, and I don't know if you covered this already, but do we know what causes multiple myeloma? Has research shown us whether it's genetically passed, or is it external environmental causes?
So great question again. So we know that the 3 biggest risk factors for developing myeloma are, number 1, age. The average age of diagnosis is late 60s, early 70s. So that's one of the biggest risk factors. The other big risk factors are being a male. It's a male predominant disease. And then third are being African American. And so the question of why it's predominantly in African Americans, we actually know that the immunoglobulins or antibodies that our bodies make, it's coded on the 14th chromosome of 46 human chromosomes. And we know that African Americans have a lot of genetic variation in this 14th chromosome. And so it's thought over time that these mutations have caused that predominance. So interesting. And we actually have some of the top 10 highest incidents of multiple myeloma in the country here in Louisiana. But yeah, and then the other thing we know is a slight risk factor is having a first degree family member. The risk is very small, and we don't even recommend screening necessarily. But that is a risk that we know about too, and there's studies looking into should we be screening, say, elderly African American males, or should we be screening first degree family members? And so those are studies that are ongoing right now, but right now we don't have any guidelines for screening like we do for mammograms or colonoscopies or things like that.
To you as a caregiver, how do you integrate family members into the process of helping? Willing family members.
I educate them a lot on the importance of it, and I've been adamant about going to doctor's visits with my mom to get more insight on it, because I'm still, of course, learning more and more about it. But yeah, just having those conversations with them about what's going on, and it's for us, we're seeing it in real time. So my mom and the different transitions that she's going through, you know, our family members throughout her journey have been more invested as time progresses, especially when she went through the remission. When it came back and then she had to go, she relapsed. That's the word, I'm sorry. When she relapsed, that's when it got our attention and it was a big thing, but when it came back, yeah.
So did y'all have like a family meeting or something and say, this person is good at helping here and maybe this one is good at
We
helping
have
other
those
space?
conversations here and there. It wasn't like, we have our family meetings from time to time, but it's just an ongoing thing because we're all still learning about it. But I would say it's very important to have those family conversations. And again, a strong community is also very, very important because we're getting more and more information. But just keep educating yourself and always have the will to learn.
Well, just to piggyback on you, Brittany, my family is so close knit, and everybody has different roles and what they do. She's like, because we're the only girls, she's the closest one to me, and the biggest advocate. However, I have two sons who are very protective and guarded, and they more or less just encourage me not to think negative and not to give into it. My husband, he's that silent, quiet hero. He would have been here today, but he has to work.
Right.
So they all play a role in everything, which motivates me to get better.
I'd like to add something to, I'm a firm believer that in life we will see exactly what we expect to see, and I expect to see good. And I'm so thankful for this cancer because I've met so many wonderful people like y'all. And, I have met people from all over the world because of this disease. Jen and I have become really good friends. And, and I'm expecting us to be friends too. And I've just met people all over the world. And one of the most wonderful things about cancer is that it sets aside everything else. Race, gender, economic status, none of that matters when you have cancer. And it just brings people together to love and support each other.
I have my sister-in-laws. They're really actually my sisters. Um, at first, I didn't want to say anything. I wanted to keep quiet about it outside of our family. And I just didn't want to worry and didn't want to scare anyone. Um, but I think it was during COVID, we end up getting a group together, a group text. And that's where I decided to let them know, hey, your sister-in-law has multiple myeloma. And they went straight into prayer. The words of encouragement. There's just so much love there that actually gives me hope and to look forward. I mean, my sister-in-law, she's here, and she came up and she gave me words of encouragement, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. That's the whole thing. Having a support system, having people that really actually that are genuine and show a lot of positivity. Like my older son, he said, "Mom, don't waste your time worrying and getting yourself upset. Try to be positive. Try to look forward, to it being that it's going to be okay. Because if you don't, then you're wasting all the time and your energy on something, and it doesn't make any sense. So let's just be positive, And my youngest, he's just so guarded and protective, and he's kind of he hides his feelings and all, but I know he worried. I know, and but I do my best. I do my best. I exercise. I go to the gym. Uh, Dance with my doll sisters. I stay busy. My husband and I, we do 3 miles a day walking. Um, I pray. So, at the end of the day, your family is what you need.
And I know we need to wrap this up. Before we get off the stage, I would like to say this. Us as the patient community, we need to recognize our medical team, the doctors, the nurses, the people with the nonprofits. And I will tell you that the amount of passion that they have for curing people like us, and we look at them in those roles, but we forget that they're people too, that the time away from their families, learning what they've learned, the stress that they carry, knowing that we're depending on them for answers. And I just think it's very important that we as patients not forget that they're people dealing with their own issues while they're trying to take care of us. Yeah, that's their job, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So it's just very important. Those nurses, the nurse practitioners, the doctors, the people involved in research, we should just be very, very thankful for them.
Please give it up one more time, loud and proud, for all of our panelists and our moderator. Big shout out to Ben Rogers, Dr. Andy Delavicio, Mr. Alan Stevenson, Ms. Michelle James, and Ms. Brittany James. Once again, thank you for all the information. Now, we got more on deck today. We got another great panel coming up in a minute. So hold tight. We also got some more food. But we got these gift cards for folks that signed up and registered. So we'll give some of those away right quick. Let's see who we got. Lisa Isom. Congratulations. Give it up for Miss Lisa Isom. Come on down. She got a $25 Amazon gift card. Also, Miss Drika Blissett. Is Drika here? Drika, go Drika. Here you go. Congratulations. And this is a $100 Visa gift card. Give it up for Miss Drika Blissett. Who else we got? Kelly Wolf. Where's Kelly Wolf? Congratulations to Kelly Wolf. Come on down. You got a $50 Amazon gift card. But you're gonna have to stay up here for a second after you give away this gift card, or after you receive it. Tell us what you have going on over here. I need a microphone for you. Let's get one. And I'd actually like to get all of my vendors to come and tell us a little bit about what they have going on today so you can make sure and visit your table.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Kelly. I'm the owner of Reju Juice, which is a local cold pressed juice company. I don't add any sweeteners or preservatives in my juice. So my juice is all natural, just fresh fruits and vegetables. An example of some of the flavors that I have today, I have classic watermelon, which is watermelon straight from Mississippi. I only use seeded watermelons. I have a few mango pineapples remaining. It's mango, pineapple, and green apple. Really good for muscle recovery. Watermelon is really hydrating. I have some ginger shots made with ginger, lemon, cayenne pepper, and honey. Really gets the blood going. But I have all natural, fresh fruits and vegetables. I don't add any sweeteners or preservatives unless I tell you. Like I said, with the ginger shots, it does have honey in it, but there are some medicinal purposes for the honey. So everything I do is all natural, and it's centered around just making sure that we're doing the best that we can to have something to nourish our body. In Louisiana, we are 50th in health, and unfortunately, our life expectancy is lower than any other state in the United States except West Virginia. So I'm doing my part to positively impact my community. Love y'all. Thank you for the gift card. Thank you.
You can't leave yet. Tell them where you normally, because I saw this on Instagram. How many bottles have you sold so far?
35,000 bottles of cold pressed juice.
35,000.
And we on our way to 100,000. Thanks for Wild Wayne for making that a challenge for me. So the purpose of selling these cold pressed juices is to flood our body and our community with fruits and vegetables. Every bottle has approximately 2 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables. So I always tell people, imagine yourself trying to eat 2 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables. It's hard and we're busy. But if you get you a juice, if you get you a juicer, you have fresh fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator every day, and you're able to nourish your body on the go. So I want to make it convenient for you. I want to make it delicious for you, but most of all, I want it to do have positive impact on your body. And you can find me
there you go.
Inside Prali's restaurant on Frenchman Street. It's 3745 Frenchman Street behind Mackenzie's Chicken in the Box. Prali's is known for their salmon. It's really good. But he built a bar for me. I used to be in there during coronavirus. I sat there at a table and he allowed me to sell my juice. That's actually the first time I was able to do it. And this year he built a bar so that people, when they walk into the restaurant, they can find something healthy and delicious for them as soon as they walk into the door. So you can walk in and have a ginger shot. You can walk in and just talk, and I can make you some delicious juice. Thank you so much.
Yes. Now, I have another shameless plug. So I get all her like watermelon skins and pineapples, and I give to my chickens. So nothing goes to waste, or the rest gets composted. And stop by Prali's. They have the Wild Wayne special for breakfast. It's salmon bites with grits and eggs, which is the top seller over there. Let's see who else we got. My alma mater is here, Xavier University, the Xavier Cancer Education Research Club. Can I get a representative up here real quick? Y'all give it up. XXXXXU. I thought you knew. They are doing some amazing work over there. I wanted to be a doctor, believe it or not, at one point, but the DJ bug got a hold of me, and I've never looked back. Who knew, huh? And what's your name?
Hello, everyone. My name is Razan. I am the president of the Xavier Cancer Education and Research Club. It's really great to be here with you all today. So what we have today is our booth. The Cancer Education and Research Club is a student-led organization focused on raising cancer awareness and getting students involved in community outreach. So what we have at our booth today are student-made flyers explaining what multiple myeloma is and how to deal with it in a way that is simply explained for the general public. So please stop by and chat with our students. Thank you.
Give it up. Give it up. Thank you so much. We got more on deck, though. Hey, they've passed out some post-panel surveys. Make sure to fill those out. When you fill those out, they'll get you the swag bags. We got a whole bunch of swag bags for everybody in the back. We also have a little Cajun dinner for after the panel is over. So we're going to feed you guys. Make sure you get something good nourishment as well. And we have some more giveaways, some more of these gift cards that we'll be giving away as well. I want to make sure we acknowledge all of our vendors. I'm going to get a couple of them up here before the day is done. But also big shout out to Ochsner Research. They're right over here in the back. Give it up for Ochsner Research. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Also, Bristol Myers is in the building. Give it up for Bristol Myers. We have Pfizer Oncology and Hematology. Shout out to MMRF, the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation right there in the back with Jen. And also We Can Win Foundation. We got the We Can Win Foundation right over here to our left. And we got, I'll make sure I say it right. We got DentaQuest. DentaQuest, they got all kind of great stuff. If you need some toothbrushes or some toothpaste, they'll take care of you right over here at this booth right here. Now, our final panel that we have coming up is called The Power of the People, Demanding Great Care and Building Communities with Multiple Myeloma. Our moderator for this one is going to be Ala Banjo. Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Ala Banjo. She's a doctor, and she is the Senior Director of Community Engagements and Partnerships at the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. Here you go, Ala. And she's tasked at MMRF with developing and implementing an organizational strategy to build trust, broaden reach, and inspire engagement and service when it comes to improved outcomes for all patients. And that's with a strong focus on those who have been traditionally underserved by the healthcare sector. Please give it up for Dr. Ala Banjo. Up next, we have an amazing thriver in the building. Y'all give it up for Mr. Jonathan Johnson coming up. Truly a miracle. He's a husband, a father of four, a personal trainer, and a fitness enthusiast that was diagnosed with multiple myeloma and how you pronounce that? Amyloidosis. He also raps, I think. You rap or you sing? He raps and he sings too. He does it all. But he was diagnosed with that 2 years ago. And then on July 24th, 2023, he became the first person in the U.S. living with cancer to receive a heart transplant. Wow. Now, he's in remission. Jonathan champions faith, family, prayer, and the never give up attitude, stressing the importance of healthy lifestyle and positive mindset. Please give it up for Mr. Jonathan Johnson. We have a community champion up next, Miss Jennifer Mama Jen Turner. Give it up. You know her from Community Bookstore. She has been a cultural landmark for a very long time and also does educational resources. And she's done it for over 40 years. She is additionally a multiple myeloma thriver. So give it up for Miss Mama Jen. She has a passion for nurturing young minds and preserving Black literature. I've bought numerous books from her. And she's made a pillar of strength for our community. They know her humility and boundless community love emphasizes not what you read, but how you read. I'm about to tell them everything. And she's got a lot of books that you will not find anywhere else in the world. And in this community, in this environment that we're going through in the world, that's very important. Up next, we have Miss Charity Johnson. She's a federal investigator and entrepreneur from Slidell, and she now resides in Dallas. She's the second oldest of 7 and a mother of 2. Charity became a dedicated caregiver in 2022 when her brother was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Her story and caregiver experience exemplifies perseverance, love, and purpose. I'll give it up once again for Charity Johnson. Last but not least, I have my brother, Mr. John DeShazier. He is a senior writer for NewOrleansSaints.com and the New Orleans Pelicans radio analyst, and he is a sports legend in this community. No, I'm about to give you flowers. He is a legend. I'm glad to see you, JD. Not only does he use his platform for all the great information for sports, but he also shares his information about the journey with multiple myeloma. After a June 2022 diagnosis, following months of hip pain and misdiagnosis, he's here to share his story. He stresses listening to one's body and seeking second opinions. Shazier advocates for patient empowerment and research participation, especially to help the Black community overcome medical mistrust and secure quality health care. Please give it up for Mr. John DeShazier. And give it up for all our panelists and our moderator, and we're going to get this panel started. The power of the people, demanding great care and building community with multiple myeloma.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our wonderful panelists for joining us today. And I think the last panel that we had was just a wonderful tee up to what we're about to discuss now, because we really delved into advocacy, standing up for yourself and patient empowerment. And I just love how you brought everything just full circle, just even from where you started and where you are now, living with hope, living with empowerment. So I'd love to get started with our panelists and just jump right in. So welcome to you all. So to just kind of get us started and ground us in your experiences, can each of you share just very briefly your personal journey with multiple myeloma, whether as a patient or as a caregiver? And I'll start with you, Mama Jen.
My personal journey. I would walk every morning to City Park. I'd leave the bookstore and I'd walk down to City Park, come on back. And I had been doing that for a number of years. Then one morning, walked to the bookstore and walked to the park, came back, sat down, nothing was wrong. And so I went to go to the bathroom, and lo and behold, I couldn't move my left leg. So what did I do? I just sat there and said, well, wait a minute. I can't do it. I don't have a change of clothes. So I drug that leg over to the bathroom, went, and something told me, just go ahead on and call. Just call my primary care doctor. And I did. And that was the first time I've ever heard. I told them, they said, well, are you in any pain? I said, my left leg. And they said, come on, They gave it to me in a week. That's unusual, usually be 2, maybe 3 weeks. So I went there, and we were talking. It had stopped hurting at that time. So we were talking, and he said, well, let's have an x-ray. I thought it was arthritis. And he said, no. I said, well, I'll go tomorrow. He said, no, you go today. I want you to go today. So I went, had an x-ray. He couldn't find me because I didn't have a cell phone. He couldn't get in touch with me until finally he said, I know where she is. She's at that bookstore. So he called the bookstore. Lo and behold, there it was. The doctor didn't say, come on in, let's talk about it. He said, this is what you have to do. That's it. This is what you have to do. And he told me, he even had made the appointment with the oncologist for me to see, like that Monday. And I'm saying, this thing going too fast. Wait a minute, what is multiple myeloma? But I knew it was true. It hit me when the doctor he told me to go to for the oncology. I said, it's the same oncologist my mom had. Holy mackerel, this is real. So, I went through everything, but I tell you from experience, if you don't feel, I didn't feel bad. I didn't really feel bad till I took that medicine. But I didn't feel bad, and I couldn't believe I had anything wrong with me. I said, maybe, and it's not that quick that they give you the medication. It's some time, so that they can look it over and read it over and look it over and look at you and see what you do. It's a process, because I told you it was sneaky. Yeah, multiple myeloma is a little sneaky little disease that comes up on you all of a sudden. Some days go for a long time, you don't feel anything. You're doing all the process and everything. Then all of a sudden he say, hey, it hurt, sharp pains ping your body like you being stabbed all over the place. And you say, wait a minute, hold up, you know. But just but I had my family and my community. And my family, they prodded me in doing everything. And the community, they're a pain in the butt, yeah. The community was really a pain in the butt. How you doing? Come on. You did this? Did you do that? But other than that, you just keep a positive outlook on life and do what they say. Pretty soon, put one foot in front of the other.
That's right.
And soon you'll be walking out the door.
Thank you, Mama Jan. And Jonathan, can you share your experience?
Hello, everyone. Jonathan Johnson here. My story is a little complex, and it takes a while, so we're just going to try to make it real brief. Uh, like Mama Jen said, just going to fast forward through something real quick. One day, I was sleeping on the couch, and my wife was on the other couch. We were watching a movie or something, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't move my legs. And I'm looking down, I'm thinking, am I dreaming still or is this real, So I really tried to move my legs and I couldn't, just like she said. And it's crazy because I haven't heard too many people say that. They'll talk about the pain, but they don't talk about things that just stop working out of nowhere. So both of my legs, I'm looking and I'm like, okay. And I went to call for my wife and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to stress her out. I'll just go back to sleep because maybe I'm just dreaming, right? So I went back to sleep. I woke up. Everything was good. Everything was normal. I never even talked about it. And I work out a little bit if y'all can't tell. I went back to the gym, training clients. Everything was great. Everything was good. And out of nowhere, little aches and pains or more aches and pains, more than I'm normally used to. But as men, we don't go to the hospital, like I was talking to Alan earlier, unless you got a bone poking out or something, or you bleeding bad. So you just kind of be like, I'll just get a little rest or, hit the hot tub or the cold plunge and I'll be fine. So I kind of did that for a while, but eventually everything kind of caught up to me. I started having holding fluid, which wasn't actually from the multiple myeloma. It was from the heart failure I didn't know I had. So after my wife and my sister and family, we kept on going to specialists and trying to see what was going on. And we realized that it was multiple myeloma. Not just that, I also had amyloidosis, which is a rare blood disease. On top of the multiple myeloma, which is a blood and bone, I was also having heart failure. So, of course, when you first hear this news, you don't want to tell too many people because for one, you don't want to get everybody else down. But of course, like I said, you have to advocate for yourself. Lucky for me, my wife advocated for me because I wouldn't have said too much of anything at first until she went out and she just, she did all the legwork and my sister got involved and she just kind of called all around the world to see who, basically like Dr. Delavicio said, who's the specialist of whatever you have, that's who you need to find first, in order to get things rolling. So long story short, I ended up going to New York where I received a heart transplant because I couldn't fight the cancer if my heart wasn't working. So went to New York and I seen an oncologist and she was amazing, Dr. Was it Lynch? Dr. Lynch. And she told me basically, my sister and my wife, and we just went to New York just to see about the cancer, to see basically how, because like I say, multiple myeloma is new, how long I had left and what I could do to, try to get things rolling. And Dr. Lynch said when I went to New York, she's like, you have a lot of muscle for somebody that that have what you have. And I had went through 15 weeks of chemo. And she said, if you survive that, I think, with the treatments these days of multiple myeloma, you can live a healthy life, a good 10 to 15, even more years if we get you a new heart. So I'm just like, well, yeah, that would be great. New heart sounds good, because I'm used to seeing all the movies on how hard it is to get a transplant like that, something that serious, and you got to get on the waiting list. And, a lot of people die on the waiting list waiting to actually get the organ or transplant that they need. So you know, I was just had the faith of, you know, something's gonna work. Of course, you know, just gotta keep your head up, keep pushing on, and whatever they throw at me, I'm just ready for. So I end up going to New York. She told my wife and my sister, she says, "Look, I'm gonna make a call upstairs." She said, "Because if you leave," she said, the doctor that you need to talk to, she said, "if you leave today, you might not get to him for another 5 to 6 months for a appointment." She said, "And I don't know if you have that long left to live." She said, "So if I was you, I would check in. It's gonna be crazy." She said, "I would check in through the ER, and you know, I'm gonna call and they'll know about you. But once you can get upstairs, it might be 72 hours, and then we'll see what happens after that." But she was like, "I wouldn't, you know." So I looked at my wife and she's like, "Well, I guess we're gonna, you know, I guess you got to stay in New York," because my children were expecting me to come right back. You know, it was like a 2-day turnaround. Well, like I said, long story short, I stayed in New York. My sister told Lisa to go ahead, go home, and you know, tend to the family and the children, and she was gonna stay there with me, and we'll just kind of take things as it go. And I stayed there, and like I said, just fast forward things. I end up getting a heart transplant. I was also actually the fastest person in NYU history to get a transplant in less than 24 hours. So keep your head up. When I say God is good, God is good. If there's a way, you know, but hey, unless you have that perseverance and you keep fighting forward, you never know the good things that's gonna come out of something. So even though you're down sometime, like you said, you got your family, you got all type of reasons. Like I said, even if it's not for yourself, to keep going, because you never know who you help and who you can inspire. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much time because, like I said, I can write a book on all the stuff I got
We're
going
gonna
on.
come back to that. Don't worry.
But yeah, hold on.
I'm Charity. I'm the sister. And I guess my bout with, or my knowledge of multiple myeloma was with my brother when I got a call in 2022 from my sister-in-law, basically saying like, look, something's going on. He's sick and he's getting sicker. And you know, he had been to countless doctors, and I think because he's not the typical patient, first of all, for multiple myeloma, he is not 60, 70 years old. He was in his 30s. So at the time he was 37. So I think they looked at the condition he was in, which he's a bodybuilder, so he had a pretty decent muscle mass. Even as a sick person, he was larger than the average healthy person. So between his size and in his age, I think some of the doctors just kind of ruled him out of having multiple myeloma. So with him now battling the symptoms of multiple myeloma along with cardiac amyloidosis and being in heart failure, it was a compilation of just different health issues, and he started to deteriorate really, really quickly. But thanks to Dr. Delavicio and some of the other doctors who were able to get his cancer in remission, and then we were able to get to New York, and by the grace of God, all things aligned, and he is the only person in the United States now to have an organ transplant and have cancer. And so that is a remarkable accomplishment for him. So I always just talk about his resilience and just the belief that he continued to have, that all things would work out and that God was not finished with him yet. But that is my first bout or my introduction into multiple myeloma.
It's kind of hard to go after that, right? No, actually, my diagnosis came in 2022, but my symptoms began in 21. I had a pain in the right hip, and I worked out, so I figured, okay, that's just old man stuff. It'll go away. And after a week and a half or so, it did go away. And so I didn't think anything of it, but the pain moved to my left hip. I figured same thing. It'll go away in a couple of weeks, but it never went away. And it only got worse to the point where, you know, as you get older, you have to use the restroom in the middle of the night. I didn't want to get up because I didn't want to walk because it hurt. And so I had a couple of x-rays done. The x-rays came back clean, no bone structure issues, but the pain didn't go away. So my wife and I took a trip. We went to San Francisco. San Francisco's really hilly, and I was having difficulty walking those hills, which is something that just never happened. But I couldn't really do it. She could, but I couldn't. And so as we were in San Francisco, she was saying, look, when we get back, you're getting an MRI. And so we finished the trip, we get home. I can't get the MRI until like June. I think we were in San Francisco in February. I have the MRI. And while I'm at work, I'll never forget, I'm at a mini camp practice, and the patient portal information, the information comes through on the patient portal, and I read, and I see, the word myeloma. I'm not a doctor, but I know that suffix OMA. I was like, okay, this isn't good. And so I did the absolute, positive, dumbest, worst thing you can do. I went on the internet and looked it up. And I looked it up and scared myself to death. So finished out work that day. I don't know what I wrote or how I wrote it. I know it was not my best work. Went home and tried to calmly tell my wife, who's sitting there, my caregiver, that I had cancer. And so I think we might have cried a little bit and prayed and really didn't know what was going on. So we finally get a schedule. We go and see a doctor at West Bank Ochsner. And I won't tell you her name. I can't really remember it anyway. But if I did, I probably wouldn't say anything good because I didn't like the whole process. I had to go over there for an infusion. I get a phone call, and she basically tells me, "Hey, you got cancer," and it doesn't seem like, okay, this is the forum that you should be telling me this, and so as I'm getting the infusion, the nurse who was there with me, she's kind of overhearing it because I'm on my cell phone. And the nurse is like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay. So my wife and I did go and see her maybe a day later. And she tells us, that it wasn't really dire, but she says, we can start your treatment in maybe a couple of months or so, or maybe a month or so. And so we're like, well, no, we kind of want to get this started right now. And she's like, well, we can't do it for another month or so. So we're like, well, okay, is there someone at the main campus that we can see sooner than that? And so they schedule us to go see the specialist at the main campus, who happened to be Dr. Delavisio, and we see him earlier. And so between being terrified for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and stewing on it and worrying about it, we go in, and I can't remember the exact words, but when we see him, within 3-4 minutes, the first thing he says is, we can treat this, we can get you better, we can fix this, basically. And he said, look, you're going to feel better within a couple of weeks once we start treatment. And by then, I was really beginning to hate to walk because it just was painful. I didn't realize it until after the pain went away. But probably on a scale of 1 to 10, it might have been about a 93. I mean, it was flaming. And so we begin the treatment, and almost immediately it turns. And so, he lays out the treatment process. Everything goes exactly according to plan. There's nothing that he said that didn't happen the way he said it was going to happen. From, how many treatments you're going to have, the frequency of the treatments, how you're going to feel, everything went well. Fortunately, thank God, I didn't have any side effects during the treatment. It was really only after the stem cell transplant that I had some side effects. But really going through the treatment was I hate to say easy, because I don't think anything that you're dealing with when you're talking about cancer is easy, but we got it in early enough, and the treatment really, really worked well for me. So even now, I'm still, at the end, almost at the end of the injection cycle, I think. I'm 3 years past the stem cell transplant, but really thankful. And actually, I have to give a lot of credit to my wife. Small woman, but really determined and dogged and naggy. And so she really stayed on me about, look, we got to do the MRI. We got to find out what this is. Because she had not seen me like that, and I was not accustomed to being like that. But because I was stubborn, I was like, okay, this is gonna go away. It's gonna clear up, because it cleared up in one hip. It's gonna clear up in the other one, and I'll keep going. And had it cleared up in the other one, there's no telling what would have happened. But because even when I wouldn't listen to my body, she insisted that I listen, and so we were able to get the diagnosis and get the treatment.
No, thank you for sharing your stories, and all of you. Thank you. I think there's so many things that struck me, not only with your stories, but even with our first panel and hearing that, you know, perseverance, that insistence on, I must get an answer. And that's something we always tell our patients in any, you know, disease spaces. You always want to get to the bottom of, you know, the root cause, like what is causing those symptoms. And, you know, John, I'd like to kind of jump a little bit more on what you talked about, because you talked about how your wife was such a support system to you. And again, just really applauding your, you know, persistence in getting an answer. Can you tell us how that partnership, you and your wife working together, you know, going to Dr. Delavisio and really building that community around you, how, what really propelled you to, you know, continue to take those steps forward until you got an answer?
Well, I mean, really, she was as insistent, or maybe even more so than I was, because my primary, I don't think it was misdiagnosed. He diagnosed the symptoms that I gave him, and so he went by what I told him. You know, hey, I got a pain in the hip, and that was basically what it was. So he says, okay, we'll take some X-rays, and you know, okay, everything comes back fine. So he prescribes rehab. So I'm doing rehab, but I'm like doing rehab, and it's even getting worse. You know, I'm supposed to be strengthening the muscle in the area, and it's like I can't do this because I can't lift my leg that way. I can't do that right now. And so then it was like, okay, there is something worse than this going on, because rehab should be helping, and it's not. It's making it worse. And I don't even want to go to rehab now because we don't know what's going on. So I can't figure out what's happening. And that was when, you know, we were pretty adamant about, okay, we've got to see something or seek something more. And that's when it was, okay, let's do an MRI. Let's find out a little bit more about what we can find out, because all we know right now is it hurts, it's not getting better. X-rays hadn't showed us anything. So what's the next step? And so the next step was the MRI, and you know, thank God she was real insistent about it, and I wasn't, you know, fighting against it, but you know, again, I don't want to say you're contrary, but you know, you just don't want to admit you're breaking down. And so I was not really gung ho on admitting I was breaking down, and in the middle of it, I was breaking down.
Now that, I mean, again, I applaud you for getting to the bottom of those answers. You know, something that I do want to ask, and you know, Jonathan, I heard a similar strain in your story as well, which is again getting to those answers, and especially for you being diagnosed so young, you do not fit the profile of a traditional myeloma patient, not at all. And then especially with your fitness background, and then having this trifecta of multiple myeloma, AL amyloidosis, and then heart failure, how, you know, something that we hear from myeloma patients is it's overwhelming. It's just a lot of information. It's a complicated disease. But in your situation, how did you push through that? You know, I love hearing about how charity supported you and your wife as well. But, you know, what did it take for all of you to come together collectively and say, we're going to fight this?
Well, it's kind of like you said, with I guess the the negative part of looking fit, I should say, the doctors that they kept the stuff that they would normally check for with multiple myeloma or just off the checklist, they wouldn't even check me for those things because they said he can't have this because he looks so well. You know, he looks strong, he looks this, so they would just kind of go to the next thing. And my wife is like, listen, I know he's big, but he's hurting. He can't do that. He's not going to tell you, but I'm telling you, this is so. She basically, like I said, pushed the envelope like over and over for them to start, you know, going that extra. That's why it took so long for them to even figure out what was going on with me. But as far as myself, you know, like I said, I have 4 children, and I kept thinking, especially when I heard about the cancer, it was like kind of like Alan said earlier, as far as legacy or what do you leave behind. That give me that motivation. I'm like, I want to see my daughter graduate, at least my daughter, you know, if I don't make it for my younger boys. And I want to be able to show her what a man is supposed to be and is supposed to look like to push through. So we're always setting an example because children are always watching, always. So that was my main motivation. Like I said, besides, everything else, my children that was my main focus. So it was kind of easy for me. The rest of it, just kind of keep pushing on. And like I said, with my wife, it was kind of, I said, because at one point when it got bad and it got bad to where I was so weak I couldn't hardly do things. And kind of, I just thought about this in my head with my sister. I know a lot of guys will relate to this. So I'm in the hospital, and I don't have the strength really to kind of say or voice things that I wouldn't say anyway if I was by myself. And one of the doctors said something. They said something. Remember the time when they told me that I was going to be flown to another hospital, to Houston. One of the doctors came back, and in the time I was there, they said, we have a hospital in Houston that's going to take you with the problems that you have, and it's going to be a lot better, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, I'm happy, right, ecstatic. And they say, you're going to be leaving by noon, blah. So noon rolls around, we don't go anywhere, we don't do nothing. And then the doctor finally came in like 2 hours later. He's like, look, it fell through, they didn't say nothing. And when I tell you, my sister caught the biggest fit. And she might have said some choice words to him. She's like, listen, don't come in here and tell him nothing to get his hopes up high if you're not for sure if it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, arrested. But it was just, and I love that because, like you said, you got to advocate for yourself, but having somebody else to advocate for you is needed. So that attitude is definitely needed to come out at times. But,
You are exactly right. Sometimes it's not the time to play nice,
Right.
especially when you're fighting for your health or the health of a loved one. And, Charity, you mentioned that Jonathan's experience with multiple myeloma was your first introduction to multiple myeloma. You didn't know anything about it. How much research did you have to do, just to even figure out what was going on? Jonathan talked about how you really stood up when, he was getting these answers that, weren't in line with the type of care that you wanted. So how did you even know to demand better care? Because I find that sometimes we play it a little small. We don't want to upset or rock the boat, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Well, I think sometimes with the healthcare system, and probably it could also be applicable to other things, that you have to have some tenacity and some grit to remind people that you're not a number. You are a person. You have a name. You have a family. There are people that love you, that depend on you, that expect you to show up, and you expect them to show up for you. And so I think research for us was as a collective. It's like, hey, we need you to call over this place. And then, I tapped my sister-in-law. And by the way, she's absolutely remarkable. I just have to say, if there is an example of a spouse that holds down their spouse in sickness, that is the example that I would have to say I would follow. So I just want to make sure I give her love. She is a remarkable sister-in-law to have. But yeah, it was us as a collective trying to figure out what research. And yeah, we had some doctors that would come in, and some of them, unfortunately, some doctors have great bedside manner and some don't. And so the ones that don't, sometimes you have to remind them as well. Like, how would you want me to speak to your family member? How would you want me to conduct myself with your family member if they were getting news, that removed a little bit of hope? And so I think it just came naturally. Our mom she passed in March of kidney failure, but she was a feisty little one, so I think I got my feistiness from her. But when the time came and it needed to come out, I certainly, had the grit that my brother did not have at the time to fight for himself. Was the time that I needed to fight for him.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I'm actually going to come over to you, Mama Jen, because, Charity mentioned that we have to come together as a collective. And for you, you always say community is what keeps you here. So what does community mean to you? And even through your myeloma journey, now I know you said, they gave you a tough time, but they kept you here, right? So tell us what community means to you.
Togetherness and love. In fact, one of the community people sitting right here in that chair right there, when they found out, because I hadn't said anything, so when they found out that I was coming here, Minhati, she just left, so they all came, to support, and they always supported. I think when the first time when I had that bone marrow biopsy, that's oh yeah. Y'all didn't tell me that hurt like that. So anyway, my son had taken a picture of me in the hospital, and everybody bombarded Vera at the book center. You know what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And she told them, and they said, well, when she getting out? When she getting out? You know, I said, oh Lord. But community means a lot. It means a lot. If you try to carry this journey by yourself, you're in for a rude awakening. You know, you're gonna have to look at somebody and talk. You know, and even if it's not formal, you know, where you get around. It's good to, even if you do one-on-one, you know, but community is that holds you together. They put their arms around you, they hug you, they talk, they see what you need, see what you want, you know. So community is everything, you know. Not only just your family, but that community, that extended family. That's what they are, extended family. And I just thank them every day that I possibly can, you know. And that's a blessing. Yeah, that's a blessing, you know. I hate that word, but that's a blessing. Everybody say it so
No, but
much, so much, you know.
you're absolutely right. And you know, I can't remember who said it on the first panel. I think it was Alan that mentioned, don't try to do it alone. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And, you know, something we've heard from panelists in previous events similar to this one, they say, also don't be afraid to ask for help, you know, because sometimes your community is there. They want to help, but they don't know how. So sometimes it's even just verbalize. It's hard. Sometimes we don't want to ask for help. We want to, you know, try and take everything on. But even just verbalizing and saying, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that?
And also about community, I just want to say, because I'm from Slidell, Louisiana. So, look, when my wife did say, I think we should tell some people, do you mind if I tell, you know, that the cancer, because we didn't know what was going to go on, you know, if I was going to be here long or what was going to happen. So she kind of reached out and she was talking to some friends. And then a friend of hers, Amanda Clementi from Gladiators Academy in Slidell, wrestling gym, by the way. Anyway, we'll get into it. So she reached out to her and she made a GoFundMe. Now, I was fortunate to see a lot of people, you know, good people, when they pass away, people only mourn them once they pass, they come out, right? So when this happened to me, but I guess because of 3 things I had combined, which was a lot, when I tell you the community came together, I mean, from the time I was in 6th grade or 7th grade all the way up until now, Facebook, Instagram, people start sending like loving messages and prayers and here and there, and the GoFundMe went crazy, which was very unexpected because I don't think people realize, like Alan was saying, like the amount of money when you can't work anymore and just the medical stuff that you have to pay for here and there and travel. But they really showed love big time. I don't think we went to a restaurant. We might have just started paying when we go out to eat, like in the past 5 months. Because we'll go somewhere, somebody would always take the tab. They wouldn't even tell us. They'll just leave. And it feels good, though, to know that people care even if you're not their family. So just keep an open heart and an open mind when things like this happen. And like they said, let people help you and tell people you need help if you do.
Absolutely. And those are such great words. And also, you know, something that Michelle mentioned earlier is also even talking to folks so they can share with you what resources are out there, because we can't expect to know everything or do all the research ourselves. You know, you can draw that information from others as well. Yeah. So I'm going to segue a little bit. A topic that we touched on briefly in the first panel was around clinical trials and really understanding that in multiple myeloma, clinical trials are part of the care continuum. And this is specifically for John and Jonathan. So we know that, you know, clinical trials have helped move, you know, myeloma treatments forward. And John, I believe you've mentioned that you would consider clinical trials, and Jonathan, even your own transplant. I mean, that was a novel, experience that you went through as a pioneer. That's a form of living research. So can you just share with us what your views are on clinical research? And just, any thoughts that you have around it. If you've considered it, why not?
I mean, I would absolutely do it because I feel like it would be able to help somebody else. And if you're unfamiliar with your situation, it can be a scary situation. But if I can do anything that can educate someone or help them or kind of ease their concerns, and I can tell them, hey, I've done this, I've been through this, you can do it too. I wouldn't mind at all doing that because I think the question I asked Dr. D was, do you pick your own team? And you heard her talk about, bedside manner. And you need someone there to kind of help allay your fears. And so if a clinical trial will help do that for someone and I can share that information with someone, I don't mind doing it. I do it, 1,000 times over because you want people to, one, be educated. You can't just stick your head in the sand and say, okay, this is going to go away. It's not. And two, you need, I think, someone who's been through some of the same things, someone who can not just say, okay, this is what it is, but someone who can say, this is what it is, and I can tell you that because I did it. I went through it. And if I can help, educate any way I can, then I'm more than willing.
I agree. I agree with John big time. Kind of like with Dr. Del Vicio. He also, when you go find an oncologist or a doctor, I think it should be a good fit. You can feel a lot of times when you go talk to people just based off of their body language and their actions if they actually care or they're in it with you, if that makes any sense. Just because they're a doctor or a nurse or whatever, that's their job title, doesn't mean that they necessarily want to be there. So that's something you got to kind of, think about. But I had a good feel, and I had a lot of bad feels, and I had a lot of bad information from some doctors. But when Dr. Del Vicio, it was like the perfect fit. Everything was smooth. I felt that he cared about his job, you know what I'm saying, and cared about me, so that made things a lot easier. So like you say, I agree with John with the clinical trials. If it helps, talk to your oncologist, see if it's a good fit, and talk to somebody who might have had it, and kind of go from there.
No, thank you both for sharing your perspective. And I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm seeing a trend here. And I think, from what you said, I really do admire the relationship that you share with Dr. Della Vicio as your oncologist, because that level of trust, can only be established with a team that has your best interests at heart. That, if you're talking to them, they're going to tell you the truth. They're, whatever you tell them, that they're listening, like you said, the bedside manner, but really just that holistic care, like they truly care for you as a human being. So that's something that we always at the MMRF encourage our patients to do. It's, you got to find the right team. If the team is not giving you the answers that, you want in terms of, are they looking at you as an individual, find the right team.
Yeah. That man calmed us down, really, because, we were fearful. We didn't know what was happening. And for him to calm us down and get us in a situation where, okay, if my dad had this, I would recommend this. If it was my brother, I would recommend this. And then we were like, okay, if he takes it that serious, you feel a different way. And when he tells you, hey, if you were my dad, I would tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you right now. That helped ease our fears.
My wife told me when he moved to a different, with Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center, she's like, he's going to Baton Rouge. She said, I don't care where he's going. You're going to have to drive there. So it was, like you said, it was a no-brainer for us. But yeah, he was great.
No, thank you. So I'm just going to wrap up with one more question for all of our panelists. And Mama Jen, I'm going to start with you. So based on what we've heard today with our first panel and then the wonderful information that you all have given us today, what is the single most important piece of advice that you can offer on demanding great care, using your community as a resource, and even just, empowering yourself as a patient?
You know the most important to me family and extended family, my community. And if they believe in you in getting the care that you need and mentally, and your mental health is most important. So that if you believe in yourself that you can get through this, because when my dad had multiple myeloma, and the doctor said, he told us, he said it's not hereditary. So my sister and I, we skippity doo dah, we ain't, and then when they told it, said that I had it, I said, wait a minute, didn't they say, but the community got me through, Look, another one sitting out there in the audience, I see her, and um, but it's your family and your community, not only the doctors, but and you have a great team. You could figure it out. You have a great team of doctors, and they just tell you what you have to do. You have to. This is what you have to do. So that's enjoyable in itself. So I'd say family, community, doctor, family, community, and of course, God.
All right, I'm going to second what she said, doctor, family, community, God. So that way I ain't got to get into all that. The biggest for me, it should be the biggest for everybody. Health. Health is everything. Exercise. It's everything. You don't got to get out there and run marathons and lift all the weights in the gym, but you need to be out there walking and stretching almost every day if you can. It keeps the body limber, keeps the body moving, the cardiovascular is what you need. Because they told me with everything that I had at once, if I wasn't working out in the type of shape I was in, I wouldn't be here today. And I believe it. Like I said, not just the multiple myeloma, the heart failure. The doctor said, man, I don't even know how like you're living right now with all these things because my body was completely, it broke down completely. And they told me if I weighed less than what I did when I got diagnosed, I definitely would have made it as far as I did. So everybody, if you got to get out and walk it out, watch the foods you eat. You could eat bad foods, just don't eat bad foods every day. You know what I'm saying? I always tell my clients, 4 days of eating good is not going to kill you on the weekend when you want to splurge a little bit. But when the weekend is over with, get back to eating clean and just get a nice little walk and a little healthy diet in every day. I know out here it's hard for us living in Louisiana because there's so much good food. But at the same time, like I said, you gotta find your little spots, you know what I'm saying, to get in here and there because your health comes before everything. You got to be strong enough in case we do happen to get cancer or some other type of illness, we'll have the strength to fight it. So that would be the top thing for me.
I think I would say advocacy. Advocate for yourself, advocate for your family members. I'm up here as a caregiver, but I'm one of the village. We were blessed with an enormous village that came to support him as soon as he was sick. There were family members, but there was also friends and strangers who became friends. Even to this day, when he goes out, he'll have people run up to him and start talking to him or give him a hug, and I'm like, okay, little celebrity. But just people that have advocated and spoke, whether he was in a room or not, but that prayed for him, that prayed for his family, but that just advocated for him. So I think advocacy is important. And I would be remiss if I did not mention our big brother that's here. It's 7 of us. So we're numbers 2 and 3. And so our oldest brother, who's number 1, is here at the table. And so he was one of the ones that came through and helped with the kids, bring them to practice, do whatever was necessary to keep the...
Not to cut you off, not to mention the first time I died, even though you should tell them about that too, John, you had 4 times. The first time that my heart stopped, my oldest brother and my wife was in the hospital with me. When the doctor, the doctor said I was having a seizure, And my brother was like, he's having a seizure. The doctor said, you can't talk during a seizure. My brother said, of course you can talk during a seizure. You kind of talk gibberish because there's different forms. Well, the doctor was sitting there blowing his breath in my face, trying to bring me to, and my brother ran out to get the nurse. And the rest is history from there because I did die in that moment. But they brought me back. Anyway, go ahead.
Just wrap it up. I just, like I said, advocacy. Advocate for yourself, advocate for your family. Love yourself first and love everybody around you.
Thank you, Junior.
Yeah, I've got to echo each and every one of those because that's very important. But I will say this, listen to your body. You know you, and you know when you don't feel well. And no one can help you if you won't admit you don't feel well. So you know you better than anybody. I went through it. I know me. I know I wasn't feeling well, but I wouldn't admit it. If you can't admit it, then how are you going to get better? How are you going to be able to address it? So you have to be able to admit I need help in order to get help. Because if you won't admit it, again, nobody knows how you feel better than you do. You see Jonathan, he had to feel some kind of way. The way he looks, he had to feel some kind of way to be able to admit I need some help. I had to feel some kind of way to where I finally said, okay, I have to get this checked out. We got to find out what this is. And so you know you better than anybody. Listen to what your body is telling you because each and every ache and pain, not all of them are just routine. Some of them mean something, especially the ones that are persistent and won't go away. It probably means something. So listen to what it's saying and be willing to address it. It takes a little, it takes a little courage sometimes to say, hey, I need some help. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for some reason, we're a little too macho about things and, we don't like to admit weakness, but it's not necessarily weakness when you understand your body. So just listen to what your body's saying because it's got a message for you.
No, thank you for those words of wisdom. Again, thank you to all of our panelists. Can we give them a round of applause, please? And with that, we'll open it up to the room for any questions.
I just want to thank you for sharing your story regarding the heart condition, the multiple myeloma. I mean, you're a perfect example of what we must do to get better, exercise, like you said. I'm taking that advice about the 4 days and then I can indulge on the weekend. What I'm doing is I'm walking more. My husband and I are doing 3 miles and in walking. And I mean, he has to take it slow because he had knee surgery. And eventually we're going to build up to at least jogging. That's our goal. And also, we're going to invest in some bikes so we can do trail bike riding. And but I also want to add with my experience, if it was not for me being as active as I was, I wouldn't have been able to get through the stem cell transplant. And then I harvest my own stem cells. And I'll never forget that day when I'm watching the little things, they're moving, going into the, after with the transfusion, it was just really an amazing thing. And I kind of look at it in the perspective of it being holistic in medicine to me. And you can't go without being active. You have to exercise. You have to. I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right now I'm with the dolls and I'm right now until I get better, I'm on the float. I don't want to be on the float, but I'm on the float. Because I'm so used to being on the ground, and I'm enjoying it. It's a great experience. However, I'm looking forward to getting back there. Yeah, so you're my motivation. Thank you.
Well, first, I want to say thank you guys for doing this. A couple of points I wanted to make is one, I get thanked a lot by patients and their families for helping them, but I really get a chance to thank patients because what I learned from you guys about life, family, friendship, marriage, being a father, being a son. It's something that's incredibly important to me, and I take home with me. It's one of the great gifts of my job. Not only do I get to see patients get better and thrive, but it makes feel like it makes me a better person. So I want to thank you guys for that. The other point I wanted to make was the advocacy point. And so, even in a wealthy country like America, and even patients who have private insurance, that in some ways the system's strained, and that we don't have enough doctors, or you have to wait months for appointment. And to the point where they make that, if you're feeling unwell, and a doctor says, or a scheduler says, sorry, we don't have appointments for 3 months, say that's not okay. That's not acceptable. And you don't have to be rude or disrespectful. You can still be all those things, but if you really find you can push and you can get that earlier appointment. And I actually was talking to my fellows that we train. I bring up Jonathan's case all the time, and Lisa is that I don't think you would be alive without her. Because that when Jonathan needed a heart transplant, even experienced centers like Auction or Houston Methodist, they felt like the situation was too risky, and she said that's not going to work. And so she got him up to New York and found a center that agreed to do the heart transplant. And I think it's really a testimony to kind of being a pit bull in the current American healthcare system, is to say, no is not going to be okay. So, big kudos to you, and just to really reiterate advocating for yourself. So thank you guys.
I have a chronic illness that I deal with on a daily, lupus, which does not have a cure as well. And I sometimes go through like these episodic type of physical ailments sometimes. So is multiple myeloma, is it like something that you guys go through that may have the stress affect you all like it does, someone with like an autoimmune disorder? And I think that's pretty much the only questions I pretty much had.
I was going to hand it over to Dr. Delavicio since he's here and he's the myeloma specialist.
Yeah, so myeloma is actually a cancer, and so it is different from diseases like lupus, which are autoimmune conditions, but they do kind of involve the body kind of going quote unquote haywire. There are similarities in that these diseases can kind of flare and come back and need intermittent treatment. Interestingly, some of the newer therapies like CAR T therapy, which is a revolutionary kind of newer treatment for myeloma, they're starting to have studies with it in lupus. And so, because there's some of the same mechanisms that all these diseases share, and so yeah, autoimmune disease, cancer, they kind of have some similarities, and so we can kind of harness those similarities for treatments that can be effective in both.
Dr. Delavicio, while you still have that.
Yes, ma'am.
Just curious, since my brother was diagnosed in his 30s, how often are you seeing patients that are younger than 60s be diagnosed with that?
So, again, the average age we talked about is kind of late 60s, early 70s. I trained in Chicago, during my 6 years of training there. I saw maybe one or two people. I have dozens of patients in their 30s and 40s in Louisiana. So as I say, there's something in the water here. And we've even kind of talked about, getting some groups together to kind of study why we're seeing it in younger patients here.
Thank you. And that was a great question, Charity, because it's something to know that seeing myeloma in younger patients, it's not unheard of, as we've seen in Jonathan's case. And also, as African Americans, we are diagnosed younger than other races. So in African Americans, you do see multiple myeloma at a younger age than in other races. So that's another reason why when we go in for a physician appointment, we can't take, oh, you're too young as a response. We need to be able to push for those answers and advocate for ourselves. We always say, if a physician tells you, oh, you're anemic, it's not, oh, that's not a response. The question is why? Why am I anemic? Getting to the bottom of those getting to the bottom of the answer, making sure that we have a reason for why these things are happening. So not necessarily just treating the symptoms, but really getting down to the bottom of why is this happening?
I've never heard of this type of cancer before, so it's very informative that I know anything about this. I never heard anything about this before, but how y'all doing?
No, you're exactly right. When we hear myeloma, we tend to say melanoma, the skin cancer, right? And that's why we have events like this, because
we don't expect everyone to have heard of multiple myeloma, but the idea is you come out, you get information like this, you take it back home, you speak to your loved ones, and if, unfortunately you hear of someone with a myeloma diagnosis, you can say, well, I heard you need to see a specialist, because that's the first thing, right? Is seeing a specialist and just knowing what options, what resources are available. That's why we have these conversations.
I'm with you, so don't feel bad because before I got multiple myeloma, I didn't know about multiple myeloma. Had no idea what it was. And then again, when I saw what it was through the patient portal, then I got a lot worried, but I had never heard of it before.
Hi, I am Angela Mackey. I'm a holistic health practitioner, and when I heard this event was going on today, I found it very intriguing, especially with it being a rise of it in the Black community. When in my research, I see that it mostly affects older people, and I've had ailments as well that will probably be seen more in older people. And I think that overall, it just boils down to, like he said, eating healthy. And what do we consider eating healthy? There are certain things that our body probably shouldn't be eating, especially after a certain age. We know that really milk is supposed to be for babies, is not supposed to be for adults. And particularly cow milk is supposed to be for baby cows, is not for human adults. And so as we continue to consume these things throughout our lives, overconsume these things, it is going to negatively impact our health. And we're going to see things like, what do you say, in multiple myeloma, the plasma cells go rogue and things like that. You see calcium deposits on the blood cells and the plasma cells, where we're doing things like eating meat and we're eating, drinking milk and, refusing to cut these things out like it's just normal that we consume these things. Is really not, and so I think that those are the things that we should be looking at. Over 75% of the planet is lactose intolerant in some kind of way. So it's a much smaller percentage of people that can tolerate milk than who can't. And we drink it anyway, even though many of us are lactose intolerant. And it may not just be lactose intolerant to the lactose, but the other bad components that's in cow milk, or at least not bad components, but bad components for human consumption. So I just wanted to point out those things. Yeah.
Yes, my name's Lori. I'm an oncology social worker and also a two-time breast cancer survivor. I applaud all of you for sharing information in the community, and I hope you continue to do that. All of what you said about community, about getting second opinions and advocating, all of that is so important. In my work, I try to share resources and be a support for patients. A lot of patients don't have the money for the cost of cancer drugs, but it is out there, and I try to help you find it. So I let patients know when they come in for their medication education, I let them know everybody that should be on their team and what their role is. And how people can help them. And it's so important that you have access to everybody. The oncologists, the various types of oncologists, surgical, radiation, chemo, that's the group I work with. But we do have patients that have multiple myeloma. I don't know as much about it as what you all have shared today. So I'm learning more and more about that because that's a blood cancer. Um, don't give up in getting the resources that you need. And as one gentleman said about denying that they have an illness, a lot of people say, I'm very independent. I don't need any help. When you need help, get it, use it, because hopefully you'll get better. But when we need it, use it. And there are resources out there. Ask your social workers, ask your doctors, ask your nurses so that you can get the support that you need.
I did want to say the one last thing is about knowing your family's medical history. So I know, like, whenever I went to the doctor as as a younger person, it's like, I don't know what my grandfather had or my great-great-grandfather, and didn't really understand the connections. However, now that he's been diagnosed with multiple myeloma at an early onset, so not in his 60s, but in his 30s, and also cardiac amyloidosis. Our mom had something that was rare called stiff person syndrome, which a lot of people had never heard of. And so I think that it's important that we do know our family's history, because though sometimes we want to be really private in battling things, we don't know what the connectors are and how that could impact our another generation. Maybe it could be a grandchild or a niece or nephew. But I am learning that knowing that family history of medical conditions is important. And because now that when I go to the doctor, I got to make sure I list these new conditions that are now being found in my family.
No, thank you for that, Charity, and thank you very much for, again, all of our panelists here today, and even you in the audience for coming out. Oh, do we have one? Oh, we have one more question. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Erica Payne, and my question is, now that you have been diagnosed and you've gotten treatment, do you still have to maintain a regimen that will it continue for the rest of your life? How does that work?
Yeah, sometimes your kidney, because it does work on your kidneys. It sometimes the kidneys are leveled and sometimes it's up. So you have to constantly be watching. So you have to go. So yeah, you do that treatment for now. Yeah, every time they might find something else that'll help you in it. It's medical, so you just listen, then you go back and then you look it up, and it's a trip. It's a journey for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. With my case, like I said, with the cancer part of it, I do chemo twice a month, every other month, every other week, to keep the numbers down. Because like Delvicio said, until we get to the point to where we don't have to, or there's a cure for it, or what may be. And I do chemo because of the heart transplant that I had. I take a lot of rejection medicines, and a lot of times you do chemo because the steroids and stuff may cause blood clots. So that's just a different, thing for me.
Yeah, I'm almost at the end of my Velcade injections. So that part, I will be on a blood thinner for a different reason for the rest of my life. But the cancer injections, because my myeloma cells are basically non-existent now. So I'll be able to cycle off that probably at the end of this month. I'm 3 years out from my stem cell transplant. And so, yeah. So with the recommendation that I don't need that part, the injection anymore, I will be done with that part. So everything is going about as well as it possibly could.
And again, thank you. So, just really along the lines of your question, unfortunately, there is no cure for multiple myeloma. And that's a lot of the work that the research is being done on this disease to get us there eventually. And, we hope that one day we will be able to come up here and say, look, there's a cure, Everyone's getting a cure and we're good to go. So right now, we can think of multiple myeloma almost like a chronic disease. So it's constantly being watched. You have physician appointments and you just go back, depending on what stage you are in your myeloma journey, but you're always being watched. And again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our audience. We really appreciate you coming out. And just one final note, because we talked about resources and finances. There are resources out there, like we've heard. If you have any questions, you can, talk to our panelists. You can talk to friends and family. You can also reach out to us at the MMRF, our Patient Navigation Center with our nurses. They will connect you with the resources that you're looking for. So we work very closely with an organization called Family Reach, and they actually will offer assistance to oncology patients, not just myeloma, but any oncology, so that's something that we're always able to connect folks with.
All right, give it up for our panelists, no doubt. For our great moderator, Alabanjo. Give it up for Mr. Jonathan Johnson and his sister Charity Johnson, Mama Jen, and also my man, John DeShazier. Give it up for all of them. Make sure and fill out the event exit surveys. We have a swag bag for you. We're going to feed you. I want to also make sure I acknowledge my mentor in radio, LBJ, anchor over at WGNO. Please give it up for LBJ. That's my man. Has been doing some great things in the community for a very long time, radio, television, etc. Shout out to all our folks from MMRF. And we have some closing remarks from Miss Laquita Gilbert and also Dr. Ala Bonjo. We have a little surprise for you, and we're going to feed you too. So y'all worked up a little appetite with all this great information. We're going to close it out right here on this final part.
Thank you, everybody. Just quickly, a show of hands, how many of you learned something new today? Take a look around the room. That's incredible, and this is exactly why these types of events are so important. It's important for us to continue to educate and spread awareness about these diseases that affect our communities. I have a list of thank yous. I want to start off by thanking all of you for coming here today, spending your time here with us. I want to thank all of the panelists for using your voice to educate, empower, and inspire people. And it doesn't end here. I want you all to take these stories and take the lessons and the education that you learned here today back to your families. Continue to spread that message. Special shout out to NORD, specifically the Treme Center, for being a pillar in the community. Yes. And allowing us to have this important event here. We also launched a campaign together and are truly grateful for the staff here. You all really showed up and show out, so thank you again. Follow us on our social media, _included, to see what that campaign looks like. Thank you to Wild Wayne. Give it up for Wild Wayne. Awesome. LBJ Joseph and Gilbert Crowden for really working alongside Joanna and Sean to spread awareness in New Orleans. There were so many people that, came here today and said that they had never heard of multiple myeloma. And so this is really why it's important for us to continue to spread awareness. Thank you to our beautiful partners, MMRF, the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, for really partnering with us on this event. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you to the vendors, volunteers, Ochsner Health, and all of you again for showing up today. So thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Ala.
No, thank you, Laquita. And no, I don't have much else to add except to say thank you to you all for showing up. It's especially to our panelists. It takes a lot to be vulnerable, to share your stories with a room full of then strangers, now family. So we thank you for coming out and sharing these stories and just telling us about your experience. And my hope is that as we leave today, we take the lessons that we've learned, we take what we've learned about multiple myeloma and what we've learned about advocating for ourselves, and we share that with a few other people. And then it continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. So again, thank you to the Treme Center for hosting us, and thank you to our partners at NOWINCLUDED. Again, with the MMRF, our mission is to accelerate a cure for multiple myeloma, and we always say that our work is not done until we find a cure for multiple myeloma. And with partners like you all, we'll get there someday, and we just hope that you continue to use your resources, advocate for yourselves, and continue to share your stories. So again, thank you all.